I will read out a quote from Sri Ramesh Balsekar on enlightenment. It says, enlightenment is total emptiness of mind. There is nothing you can do to get it. Any effort you make can only be an obstruction to it. I generally do not like to use the word enlightenment. Instead, I prefer to use words like understanding and insight. Because for most people, enlightenment is an idea, a fascination of mind that will somehow bring about a perpetual state of bliss, a permanent state where the person resides continuously in it. Which is totally against the natural flow of the biological organism. But most people have this fascination, this idea that somehow enlightenment is going to give me a lot of happiness. It will drop all misery, all suffering, all pain. But the thing is, all the scriptures and masters themselves has said that life is simple imprisonment. The only thing they say is that it is our obsessive thinking in horizontal time, which makes it rigorous. Buddha said, samsara is dukkha. The phenomenal world is suffering. Guru Nanak said, Nanak dukhya sab sansar, which means the same thing. The unhappiness is there, but the unhappiness experienced in the moment does not become suffering in horizontal time as thinking. When there is an understanding, a fundamental understanding, that nobody is the doer of so perceived their actions, and that everything is a happening. The source alone is the doer. But mind fights. Mind says, no, I will find a state of permanent bliss. Or it can go in a different direction. It will say that I will find that perfect method or a tip or a trick that will make me permanently silent. Which is impossible because mind's nature is movement. So mind will come up with clever solutions to silence itself. But all those solutions perpetuate horizontally as thinking, which is suffering. So what is the root of it all? What is the root of our suffering, of this obsessive, incessant thinking that is drowning us into a world of pain and misery? It is the belief that I am separate from the rest. Ramana Maharishi says, give up your belief in thought. What does he mean by that? He is pointing to the root thought, which is the I thought. And he says, give up your belief in that, and the rest will be taken care of. Rather than trying to find enlightenment, the idea of enlightenment that will bring abiding happiness, go to the root of your misery. Go to the I, and let it not expand as I am this, I am that, because that is constantly changing. But I in its pure form is pure awareness which is unchanging. When we get too identified with the world and we start believing in worldly concepts, our mind gets swayed here and there. And that is when we experience pain and suffering. Now, in the moment, everything will happen. All pain will happen in the moment. But that pain in the moment does not have to become suffering in horizontal time. That suffering happens when the separate self continues horizontally as thinking, or when the I continues horizontally as I am this, I am that. So Ramesh would say, what is enlightenment going to give you that you have not experienced before? All the bliss or happiness that you conceptualize, that you objectify, is your mind's creation. Yet mind itself is a fickle entity. Because in deep sleep you do not experience mind. But there is awareness which is aware of the absence of mind, or let's say inactivity of the mind. That awareness in its pure form, or pure I as I would call it, is pure knowing, is your natural state. So all the effort that we put in trying to achieve a permanent state in the name of enlightenment is actually stopping us from experiencing peace and harmony, which for me holds far more value than any abstract idea of enlightenment. Because we have been given a lot of methods, a lot of practices to purify the mind, yet we are not free from the tyranny of incessant thinking, which produces pain and suffering. So, what does one do? Simply examine who is the doer. If you get to the root of it, you will see that it is an idea that there is a separate self that is doing something. And that is the very root of suffering. Even the scriptures say that God alone is the Karta Purak. God alone is the doer. Yet, we believe ourselves to be the doer as a separate entity. And that is how we keep investing in our sense of personal identification and make it stronger day by day. And therefore, we experience more and more turbulent emotions. For majority of people, the idea of enlightenment is somehow to bring relief from their emotional content that they are experiencing, which is anger, jealousy, hatred, malice, resentment, and so on. Yet all of these things stem from the conceptual thought I as movement. I am jealous, I am resentful, I hate. So you see, it is all the movement of I that is creating this misunderstanding. But we never stop to look at this I and question if there is any concrete truth to this I. Is this I our continuous experience? We do not pause and reflect on that. And when that is done, it is experienced that this I is not our continuous experience. And that knowledge alone gets rid of the need to seek external enlightenment. There is no such thing as personal enlightenment, Because person by nature is movement, and the personality keeps on changing. Beliefs keep on changing, concepts keep on changing. But our beingness, our amness, our isness is the substratum, our consciousness is the substratum, the groundless ground of all experiential awareness. And that knowing in itself brings about peace and harmony. So, any effort put into achieving enlightenment will actually prevent enlightenment from happening if one believes in that word. And when one lets go of all the ideas and concepts, the mind becomes restful. And that is what Ramesh calls true enlightenment.